Hey everyone, today I have 5 game-changing tips that I learned from Kelly Klapstein, aka Kelly Creates, when she was here at Blitsy recently teaching her beginner brush lettering workshop. If you want to learn brush lettering and a few secrets that will get you off to a great start, then you're in the right spot. Okay, let's jump in with the first tip. Tip number 1 is that you really don't need a whole bunch of fancy supplies to get started with brush lettering. In all reality, all you need is some good paper that's smooth and not going to fray your pens and a brush tip pen. If you really want to set yourself up for success, I do recommend that you start with these basics, which are what we used in the Kelly Creates workshop. And the reason I say this is because this is going to have you really with everything that you might want to try out so that you're not having to feel like you don't have enough to really get started and to learn. Starting here, we have the deluxe lettering kit, and this is great because it comes in this canvas tote and has everything that you might want to practice with pen-wise. It has large brush tip pens, small brush tip, it has fine liners, your ruler, pencil, eraser, and a little starter kit right here that gives you some instructions. So that's going to be great for a beginner because you might not know yet if you like a small tip or a large brush tip pen, and you get to try both in one kit. The next thing that I recommend as a beginner is to get a workbook. And Kelly Creates has both the large brush tip workbook and the small brush tip workbook. Again, you might not know which you prefer, but you're probably going to end up learning both. So I would say just pick one, learn, and then get the other one, or get them both and mix and match and see which you end up preferring. But we'll get into that in just a few more minutes with some of the other tips. The third supply that you'll probably want to have on hand is a practice pad. So this one is actually a grid pad. There's also a dot pad and a lined pad and a plain pad. And the dot grid and just the square grid are really nice because it has some built-in guidelines for you as you're practicing your strokes and your letters. So really that's it for tip 1. You don't need a bunch of fancy supplies, just get yourself a pen and some paper. If you want to make sure that you've got a nice selection to start off, I highly recommend what we used in the workshop. Tip number 2 for learning brush lettering is it's all about muscle memory. So it's really not about learning a new form of handwriting, it's muscle memory. You're learning strokes, and eventually you'll put those strokes together to form your letters. So when you open up the workbook, you'll see that it has all of those basic strokes, and it has tracing paper so that you can practice the strokes without having to ruin your workbook, and you can practice over and over again. These are the upstrokes and downstrokes, and then it goes to your underturns, your overturns, and all of the basic strokes that you need. That again, I said, you're going to start putting those together to form your letters and then eventually your words. Tip number 3 is that it's all about using the right amount of pressure. A lot of people actually don't know this, but the basic principle of your brush lettering technique is going to be light pressure on the upstroke and a heavy pressure on the downstroke. Tip number 4 is how to hold your brush pen. You're going to want to hold your pen up high and horizontal. So rather than trying to grip it low and have a lot of control and hold it really tight, you want to be up high on the pen and horizontal to your paper. I'm still working on it since I'm a beginner, but what I try to remember is to keep my hand above this little swoosh on the Kelly Creates Dream Pen and to keep it more horizontal. So that's tip number 4. Before I move on to tip number 5, I thought I'd show you a little bit more inside the workbook. So you saw the up and down stroke here. It's then going to walk you through all of your other major strokes. I think I mentioned earlier there's 8 strokes that you need to learn, and once you have those mastered, you can put them together to start forming your letters. So the book actually has all of your basic strokes in the beginning, and then it moves on to your alphabet. So after that, after all of these basic strokes, you're going to get to your alphabet, and it starts with letters that make sense together. So it's not necessarily in order of the alphabet, it's about putting those strokes together. And again, each page has 3 tracing sheets that come with it, so you get plenty of practice with the tracing sheets. You can always get more tracing paper as well, so you can practice even more. So you've got your lowercase alphabet, and then you also have your uppercase alphabet in the back as well. Well, let's move on to tip number 5. Tip number 5 is to practice, practice, practice. You're never going to build up that muscle memory if you're not practicing all the time and getting those basic strokes down. So a good rule of thumb when practicing is to use your pencil to draw some lines so you're getting the same height every time for your letters and your strokes. Luckily, the deluxe lettering kit has everything you need in it, so I'm just going to pull out my ruler and my pencil, and a good rule of thumb is to do 4 boxes to keep yourself practicing at the same height every time. So I'm using a large brush pen, and 4 boxes is what Kelly recommended, so that is what I will do. So now I have my 4 boxes, and you can actually practice with your pencil, especially if you're a beginner and you don't want to go through a lot of pens because you're afraid you're going to fray the tips or whatnot. You can use your pencil and can still hold it up high and horizontal and do your light strokes up. And your heavy strokes down. And you really want to think about what you're doing and not just do it mindlessly. Just think about the angle that you're going and the pressure that you're putting down. And it'll start to become more natural as you keep on going. Then you can go ahead and take out your brush tip pen and do the same thing. And if you don't have a super thin line going up, that's okay. You'll get better at it. I'm still a little bit shaky. Just do a heavier downstroke. Here's one of my practice sheets actually from the class that we did. So I don't know if you can see, but I did do the lines. So I've got my 4 boxes, practiced with some pencil, and I practiced some overturns with my marker as well. And then I was able to write that at the end of our class. So those are my tips from the Beginner Brush Lettering Workshop with Kelly Creates. And I have to say, if you ever get the chance to learn from her in person, you should totally do it. It was so much fun. I learned a ton. I'm still learning, obviously. So if you have any other tips, please leave them in the comments below. I would love to see them. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do that and click the little bell so you get notifications. And I will see you guys next time.